Firecrawl is one of the best tools out there for scraping the web and turning it into data that you can actually use with your large language models. And this week, Firecrawl just announced version 2 of their software, which they claim scrapes web pages 100 times faster than before. So in today's video, I'm not only going to show you how Firecrawl works inside of n8n, but we're also going to dive into the Firecrawl MCP server. So I'm going to show you how to set up the MCP tools, what the pros and cons are of going down the MCP route, and then we'll do a use case where we are looking at our competitors' Amazon web pages and seeing how their products are doing on a day-to-day basis. I'm actually really excited about this lesson because there's a ton of use cases when it comes to Firecrawl and web scraping in general inside of n8n, and it's great to have a tool that lets us get outside the Appify box we usually play in. So if you're ready, let's dive into it. All right, here we are on Firecrawl, and let's talk big picture about what this tool actually does. So as reductive as possible, it's a web scraping tool. You give it websites, you give it URLs, it will go there, it will scrape the data, it will turn it down into Markdown, which you can then give to your large language models for it to use. What's the most obvious use case here? Let's say you were building a chatbot for a website and you wanted it to be trained on other websites or your own. Well, you just give it the URL, it gets all the data for you, and then you give that data to the chatbot. That easy. But if we want to go another layer deep, there's about 4 different things that Firecrawl is able to do for you. And the 4 big things that Firecrawl is able to do for you is reflected here in these modules in the purple. You can map a website, you can scrape a URL, you can crawl a website, you can extract data. Now, why do we care about this? Well, it's important to know what's going on under the hood when we start working with MCP, so you have some clue what the AI is doing for you and why. So first, map a website and get URLs. I can give Firecrawl, say like a URL like n8n, and then it will grab all of the URLs associated with that website, which is what you see here. I gave it n8n.io, and there are 4,652 URLs associated with that website as you go layer by layer by layer by layer. Quite a lot, right? Well, that's what this does. And it's important oftentimes to map a website so you can scrape the appropriate pages. Next, we have scrape a URL and get its contents. This is for a single page only. So let's say out of this 4,600 grouping of n8n web pages, I knew exactly which one I wanted to scrape, right? Best AI for coding, for example, on this blog. Well, I would give it that URL and it would scrape all the data from that singular page. That's what scrape does. Next, you have the ability to crawl a website. Now, crawling the website means it will essentially scrape multiple pages. It will go layer by layer by layer, as deep as you want it to go, and it will get more and more and more data. So just think of scraping, but deeper and multiple iterations. Next, we have extract data, and extract data is just a little more agentic. For scraping and crawling, when it goes onto a web page, it grabs everything. For example, I had it scrape that page we were looking at earlier, right? The blog n8n Best AI for Coding. This is the page in Markdown, you know, the format that LLMs really like. It'll also give it to you in JSON. But it gives me everything on the page. This is quite a bit. The difference with extract is I can give extract a prompt, and I can also give it special schema instructions where I tell it exactly what I want it to grab from each page. So it won't grab everything. It will intelligently just grab the stuff I give it. Now, if we look inside extract data, you can kind of see that reflected here in the schema. Notice how I tell it, hey, I want the title, price, star rating, total reviews. This is in reference, and you'll see this later, to having it scrape or having it extract a specific Amazon web page. And there were specific things I wanted to get from that Amazon web page: title, price, star, total reviews, right? I have the ability while using the extract data tool to specify that. I don't want everything. I just want a few things. This is what they are. So those are the big 4 tools when it comes to Firecrawl. Map, hey, give me all the URLs associated with this website. Scrape, give me everything on this one page. Crawl, give me everything on a number of pages. And then extract, give me specific information on these particular pages. That's the difference. That's what Firecrawl can give you. Now, zooming out, we talked about MCP, right? We talked about how this was going to be a little MCP lesson. So let's dive into that piece. So real quick, little refresher. What is MCP? Model Context Protocol. We could dive into this for 30, 45, 60 minutes. Big picture, what is MCP buying us in the context of n8n? Well, what it means is we go from here, the traditional AI agent, what you see here in green, to the MCP agent, what you see in red. What's the difference? It's the tools. Notice how up here in the green, I have a specific tool for each specific, I have a specific module for each specific tool, right? I have the Firecrawl map tool, the scrape tool, the crawl tool, blah, 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 blah. Every tool has an associated module that this AI agent must know and call specifically, right? every tool must be listed. Imagine if this was Gmail, right? You would have one for send message, you'd have one for delete message, draft, tag, all the tools will be listed. What does MCP buy us? Well, it gives us this. We just have two tools. We have the list tool and we have the execute tool. What MCP allows us to do is when we tell this AI agent to do something, it is first going to go to the list tools option. If we click in here, what do we see? I'll move this over here. We see an entire list of all the tools available inside of the MCP server. Do you want to guess what all this stuff is saying? It's saying, hey, here's scrape. Hey, here's extract. Hey, here's map. It's giving it a list of all the tools so it can say, what's actually available? What can I use? And it's all housed in one singular module, right? So it's essentially stuffed all 5 of these into this one. So every time we talk to this AI agent, it's first going to go to that list tools and say, hey, what's available? What are my options here? From there, once it gets the list of all the options, and let me put this back now. Once it gets the list of all the options, it's then going to pick the appropriate tool to use to execute the task, right? And sometimes we can kind of see here in the logs in a previous run, that will be multiple tools. You can kind of see up here. I'll see if I can zoom in a little more for you guys. And we'll go over this again later when we actually do the demo. But you can see here when I asked it to do a review, when I asked it to look at certain websites, you can see it hit list tools first, then it did execute tools. And then it did some back and forth with itself with the AI model. But it got the request, it did list tools, saw everything available, and then it executed the appropriate tool. In this case, I believe it was the extract tool, right? And within that extract tool, remember how we talked about all the schema? Remember how I showed you this, how we had all the schema? Guess what? You don't have to put any of that in. The AI will do it automatically. That's really the power of MCP. It's the fact that the AI now knows, okay, these are the tools available to me. This is how I need to set them up. Let me just do it on my own. There's no more like, okay, we got to go in here. I need to set up the schema properly. I do all this is gone. All this stuff is gone. AI just does it. It just does it. So what does that buy us? It buys us a ton of flexibility. It means I just talk to this MCP Firecrawl server like I would a human being, and it's going to act like one. But that flexibility comes at a cost, and the cost is precision, because I will prompt this as best as I can, but at the end of the day, it's going to be given a list of 6, 7 tools, and it's just going to have to choose the best one it thinks for the job, right? Versus if I am very specific and I just have certain modules ready to go, right? I could create an automation with just a few modules that are always going to execute the correct one every single time. Kind of just depends on your use case, right? If you're doing something a little more agentic, you need some more flexibility, MCP is great. But if you are just trying to run the same automation over and over and over and over again, maybe you don't need MCP. But MCP is cool. Everyone loves MCP. It makes you seem smart when you do MCP stuff. So that's what we're going to do today. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to build this out for yourself, and then we're going to run it through a quick demo. You should have the template up already. If you haven't done that yet, just go down below, go to the free Skool link, click on the lesson, download it. It's totally free, and you can be right where I am right now. So full disclosure, you need to be self-hosted to be doing this. You need to be on the community version because there's community MCP nodes we're using for the best effect. If you aren't self-hosting yet, you got to do it. It takes 5-10 minutes. You're saving money. It's just a better product. Again, go to my videos, look for the hosting your self-host lesson. I do not exaggerate. It will take you under 10 minutes. All right. And you're going to save money. So first thing we're going to do is we need to get these MCP modules. So to do that, you're going to go down to the bottom left. You're going to go to settings. We're then going to go to community nodes. And the node we are going to be looking for is n8n nodes MCP. Now, if you've never seen this one before, we'll go to the documentation. And I will have a link to this as well. But all you need to do is you're going to do npm space I space n8n nodes dash MCP. So I'll show you how to do it. You're just going to copy it. You're going to go to install, and you're just going to paste that in there. npm I n8n dash nodes MCP. That's it. Understand, install it, and you'll be ready to go. So once you install that community node, come back into here, and we just need to get your credentials set up for these MCP modules. So you can click into either one, and there should be list tools set automatically, and we need to create your Firecrawl credential. So you'll do create new credential, and you'll see something that looks like this. Now, it's going to be npx and then it'll be -y space firecrawl-mcp. I'll explain how I got all this in a second. And then we're going to do our API key. First, let's get our API key ready to go. So I want you to go back to Firecrawl. You're going to go to dashboard. Again, you can do this totally free. Left-hand side, API key, have this guy ready to go. Also, as a quick aside, Firecrawl is open source, so you have the ability to locally host it for free, self-host it somewhere else if you so choose. But the free tier is pretty generous if you just want to have the least amount of hassle. Now I'm on the Firecrawl MCP server. Now, where did I find this guy? Well, it's github.com/firecrawl/Firecrawl MCP server. If you Google Firecrawl MCP server, it will take you to this page. Now, what are we looking for? Well, we're looking for this guy, right? You see this is for cursor, right? But this works just fine for n8n. I'll kind of zoom in here. You'll see command npx. Well, if I go back into n8n, what do you see for command? npx. Arguments, y firecrawl mcp, y firecrawl mcp, args, arguments. See where I'm going with this? Next, we have the environmental variable, and you see where it says firecrawl API key, your API key. That's what's going to go here. So for environments, it's going to be all caps firecrawl underscore API underscore key, colon, and then you're going to copy paste your API key in there. Once you do that, hit save, and you're going to be good to go. It's not going to show you any connections or anything, but if it's not working for you, know you probably messed up somewhere there. Like you might have put an extra space or something. Make sure everything has to match exactly. Exact spaces, exact capitalization, all of it. Now let's take a look at the Firecrawl execute tools module. What do we have here? Credentials, set it to the Firecrawl ones you just created. Tool B, set automatically, execute tool, and then the tool name. Now remember, what did I talk about before? Remember how list tools is going to give us all these different tools over here on the right? Like there's a bunch of tools and they all have a specific name, but we want that tool name to be dynamic, right? We want the AI to figure out what tool to use. So this should already be filled in for you, but it's just a bit of JSON that's saying from AI tool name, call this tool when asked to execute a Firecrawl tool. I'm just telling AI, put in the right tool. I'm not going to tell you what to do, just put in the right tool based on the job. And then over here on tool parameters, that's defined automatically by the model. What does that mean? Well, remember extract data over here. Remember all this schema nonsense? We don't want to have to do that by clicking tool parameters as from AI. That lets AI figure it all out, right? That's the beauty of MCP. It's going to do everything for us. Lastly, the system prompt. And the system prompt is pretty basic, right? You are an advanced AI research agent with access to Firecrawl MCP tools, including Firecrawl list tools and Firecrawl execute tools. And I'm just telling it, hey, when I give you a task, you're going to do the list tools first, pick the right tool, and then execute it. That's it. This is a very simple system prompt. Like we don't have to go too crazy because everything's happening here, right? That's it. So that is how we set it up. Now let's talk about our little demo. How are we going to show this in action? So like I've talked about before, there are a million use cases for web scraping. It actually took me a minute to come up with one for this video, but I figured I'd do one that was actually useful for me. And so a little backstory, my brother and I, we started a creatine gummy business not too long ago. We kind of just got the product and I was like, hey, what if I used Firecrawl to take a look at the top 3 creatine gummy companies on Amazon right now, right? I will have Firecrawl scrape their pages, look at their prices, look at their reviews is the big thing, like their most recent reviews in the last day, like price, what the changes are, et cetera, and kind of get like a pulse on what's going on with my competition, right? Pretty useful. And these are super ugly pages, right? It's kind of hard for most web crawlers to go through this and figure out what's happening because it's just, there's so much crap on here when it comes to Amazon. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So how are we actually going to do this? Well, you can see down below, I'm going to tell it to give me the following info from the product pages: title, price, star rating, total number of reviews, last 5 customer reviews, including the review title, text, rating, name, and date. I also want a screenshot of each page, and then I gave it the URL. So that's a lot of information I'm asking for it. We can expect it to use the extract model. So let's have it run and take a look at the results. All right, so down here on the left are the results. You can see it going through product by product, giving me the price, title, rating, and then a sample of the reviews. And it does this for all 3. And this is actually quite a bit of information across just 3 web pages. Now, is this the ideal final output like inside of a chat window? No. No, it's not. But I think it's a good demo of what's happening inside this agent. And so let's dive a little deeper. Let's take a look at the logs. So if I click in here, we go into the logs. And this is pretty much the exact same as what we saw before, right? It went to the model, went to the list tools. We'll move again here again. And so we can see, hey, what happened when we went to the list tools? Well, it just shows them all: scrape, extract, map, all that. It brings that back to the chat model. So it's like, which tool should I use? Goes to execute tools. We see it used Firecrawl extract. And for that, we see the prompt that gives it, right? So it actually gives Firecrawl specific prompt. And then you can see here the schema. Remember we talked about the schema before? All of this stuff is schema. And this is something we would have to kind of hard code normally if we weren't using MCP. Again, this is the power of MCP right here. And then from there, it brings back all the data. And that's what you see in these next 3 jumps, right? It's just the model trying to parse through all of it. Eventually we get our output. And so that is how you can set up a Firecrawl MCP server inside of n8n. That was just like a quick demo, just a taste of kind of the power of Firecrawl in this setup. How could you take this a step further? Well, we could have this be an actual like scheduled automation, right? Like that's great information as a one-off thing, but I would probably want that every day. So I could get rid of this chat message and I could have this run every 24 hours. Furthermore, I could have it take all that data and I could put it into something like Airtable or Google Sheets and actually turn this into a dashboard that becomes kind of my one-stop shop where I can view everything, right? You don't want to have to do all this inside of n8n. And again, you don't just have to do stuff like competitor analysis like I talked about at the beginning of the video. You could just give it websites that you want to scrape for your own sort of large language model that's being trained on something else. All right, so that's it for the video, guys. I hope you liked it. We kind of hit 2 things today, right? Not just Firecrawl, we also dove a bit into MCP. And I hope you kind of just got a taste of kind of the power of MCP. It's great in certain respects, but you do lose a little bit of the precision. So just know that going in. It isn't a silver bullet for every situation, but it is powerful and it's only getting more and more powerful as time goes on. So as always, let me know what you thought about this in the comments. Join the Skool, right? Get all the templates for free, all that stuff. And good luck, and I'll see you around.